All right, this video, Internet Students, serves as instructions on how to log in to MyLabs Plus, and it will also serve as our first lecture video. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so for everybody, we are going to learn how to log into MyLabs Plus correctly. We will also cover section. This is covering section 1.2, your first homework assignment, or first section for the semester. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's follow on screen. If you recall, all right, what was the website? wc.mylabsplus.com. I obviously already have it saved. So I know internet students, you can't quite see it, but it's wc.mylabsplus.com. If you're following along with your browser, you should have another window open and type in wc.mylabsplus.com. That will take you to a page that should look just like this. Okay? It should look like this. And if you have any questions, let me know, but you should be in good shape. Notice, if you do it correctly, it'll say MyLabs Plus for Weatherford College. All right, and on the right we have our sign in. Now, here we go. So if you recall, your username is not your email address. It's not your social security number. It is not anything besides your student ID without a 0. This happens to be mine. Okay, so it is something like that. And then your password is your 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and 4-digit year. Everybody got that? Okay, and then we're going to sign in. All right, wonderful. So here we go. When you sign in, you're going to see a list of your courses. Well, you may see some past courses, but the biggest thing is that you should go look for your section. My internet class, you guys are going to be looking like Math 1332 I02. You guys are Math 1332 W02. You guys are not going to see each other's classes. The only reason why you can see all this is because it's mine, because I have to look after all of these. But you guys here, my in-class students, you're only going to see that. So just click on it. It's that easy. You don't have to worry about being confused. Internet students, you're only going to see this, I02. Don't worry about it. You're not going to be confused. Since we're working with you guys right now, I'm going to click the Math 1332 W02 link. Okay? Internet students, it doesn't matter. We're all going to be taken to the same place. All right, wonderful. So here's the page. This is what it looks like. We're going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. Okay, back up just a tad. Open this up a bit more. All right, so you have your home page. Let me see if I can zoom just a tad. Okay, you have your home page. All these items on this left. You have an area in the center that tells you what to work on next. Those are basically items that are in order. Okay, what are the main areas you need to focus on? Let's look at this left panel right here. What are the main areas you need to focus on? Homework and quizzes and tests. That's it. Everything else is whatever. And the thing is, don't look at the gradebook here. Let me reiterate that. Don't look at the gradebook here because it's not always accurate. I'll show you later after your first test where to check on your grade. Okay? So, focus on where? Homework, quizzes, and test area. So, these, homework, quizzes, and tests, those are the areas you want to click on. Does that make sense? Don't always look at what's next to see what you need to do. Think about what did we cover in class, and then go to the homework and go find that. Then, once you're done with your homework, what percent, everybody?
75.
Good. Once you're done with 75, minimum percent, then go to the quizzes area and go take the quiz for that section that you did the homework on. Now, I can't stress this enough. There's going to be a student that comes back on Thursday and says, Andrew, I didn't know we had a quiz. And I'll be like, I told you. Okay, we went over it multiple times, didn't we? Talked about it in the course outline, all of that, right? So, homework, quizzes, and tests. Do your homework, 75% minimum. Then turn around and go over and do your quiz. Don't put it off. Do it right away after. That's when it's fresh. Does that make sense, guys? Okay? Have any questions about that? Don't always focus on this. It may not be accurate. Go right here. With that said, what homework assignment are we doing for this class right now on this video? 1.2. Let's go find that. So, yes, it's right here, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But I'm going to go to homework and find it. There's 1.2 right there. 1.2 right there. Yes, question.
So for our class, we would buy for the code, you would buy the mathematically thinking, or I don't know how to buy
It's a
it.
standard code. MyLabs Plus access code. It works for all classes.
Okay.
So a textbook is specific to the class. But the access code can work for any class because the access code, once you buy it, then gets connected with the class.
Okay.
So you won't have to look for a specific access code for a book, just an access code. Great question. All right, so here we are. We're in homework. We're going to go do 1.2 for the day, and then we're going to be done, okay? All right, so 1.2 is known as estimation, graphs, and mathematical models. There are 18 questions in it. I'm going to click on question 1. That's going to launch the homework assignment, okay? Now, internet class, don't worry. It's going to get more easy to read in a moment. And here we are. Perfect. Okay, so let's take a look here. Okay, I don't know why it wants to show this thing. Why did they change that? It's such a waste of space. Whatever. I hate that it's that low. They can see it. All right. Question number 1. According to a survey, 85,471,655 people can speak a language other than their native language. Round this number to the nearest, and there are many parts to this problem, 100, 1,000, 10,000, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this number down. Okay, so it's 85,471,655. Now, if you're in this class, you should know how to round. Okay? Now, if you don't, I'm going to help you just a little bit, but you really should know how to round if you're in this class. Okay? Let's look at part A. All right, part A says we need to round it to the nearest 100. Well, I'm going to go through this. Let's start back here. What's this place called right here, this first 5? The ones place. What's the next one? Tens. Next one? Hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions. If you didn't get that, rewind. You guys can't do that. So, 100 means that for part A, we're looking at the 6, aren't we? And then we're looking at the 5 directly to the right of it. If that number directly to the right of the place that we're trying to round, in this case the 6, if that 5 is what? 5 or larger, that 6 is going to become a 7. If that number to the right of the 6 is 4 or less, the 6 stays the same. Because this 5 is 5 or bigger, this 6 is going to become a 7. Good. Everything to the left of that 7 stays the same. Everything to the right of it goes to 0. And that's the answer there. Okay? So, your answer as you type it in should be 85,471,700. I don't think you need commas. And there you go. Does that make sense, guys? Okay? Let's go do another one. To the nearest 1,000. Okay, so if we're rounding to the nearest 1,000, what digit is that in this number? It's the 1, right? It's the 1, and of course, don't pay attention to part A anymore. We're looking back here at the big number, right? What number is going to help us make a decision on whether this 1 rounds to a 2 or stays the same? The 6, good. So that 6 to the right of it is going to help us make a decision, right? Is that 1 going to become a 2 or stay a 1?
2.
It's going to become a 2. Why? Because that's 5 or larger. So that 1's going to become a 2. Everything to the right of it becomes
0.
0. Everything to the left stays the same. Oops, messed that up. There you go. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. Any questions?
The 1 should be gone.
Oh, duh. That's why I put the comma there. Wasn't paying attention. Thank you, guys. That's good. So, 85,472,000. Or yes. Okay. To the nearest 10,000. Let's go do that one. To the nearest 10,000. We're on part C here. So if we're looking at the nearest 10,000, what place is that? It's the 7. Or what digit is that? That's the 7. So it's the 7. What number do we need to reference? The 1 to the right of it. Is that 7 going to become an 8 or stay a 7? Stay a 7. Everything to the right of it's going to go? 0. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Everything to the left? Stays the same. All right, so 85,470,000. Are we okay? Can I move on? All right, let's roll along. So I'm going to move on to the next problem. So now the next one is decimal rounding. If you don't know decimals, let's work on that together. So we have 1.87707. 1.87707. What they're saying is take this number, 1.87707, round it to the nearest thousands place. Now with decimals, they all end in THS in their places as opposed to thousands like you would see with whole numbers in our previous problem. Okay, we need to know what the decimal places are. Many of you, even if you know how to round, may not be familiar, so let's go review this. This is the tenths place. It doesn't start with ones. Decimals don't start with a ones place. They start with a tenths place. 8 is in the tenths place. Then hundredths, then thousandths, then 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions, billions, and so on. It counts the same way that you would in this direction, but that way, with a THS and without starting with a ones place. So when they ask you to round to the thousandths, it means that we need to go find the thousandths place. Where is that? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. It's this 7 right here. And then we follow the same rule, which is looking directly to the right of it, which is the 0. Did we not do that over here? Same thing, right? Is that 7 going to become an 8 or stay a 7? Stay a 7. So it's going to stay a 7. Everything to the left of it, same rules as before, stays the same, right? Everything to the right of it becomes a 0. Now, just a quick comment for you. With decimals, the stuff to the right doesn't have to be written necessarily because that doesn't impact the problem. However, with whole numbers, you do need to write them. Okay, so decimals, you don't have to write the zeros here because this is the same thing. But would this be a different 8547? Would these be two different things? Completely different. This is huge. This is smaller. Is there a difference between these? No. Okay, so important distinction here between decimal rounding versus whole number rounding that we just came from. And as you can see, we don't have to write the zeros. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. All right, very good. On your own right now, internet class and in-person class, I want you guys to go do this problem right here. Okay, go do that one. Awesome. 2.67017,139. And we're rounding it to the nearest 100,000th place. First step, can you identify where the 100,000th place is? If you aren't sure, I'm going to go through this real quick here. Tenths, not starting with ones. So the first digit, this 6 after the decimal, is your tenths place. Hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths. So again, a 7 is in the position we're looking for. That's just a coincidence. 100,000ths. And then the 1 directly to the right of it is going to help us with our rounding. Because that's a 1, that 7 is going to stay the same as 7. And everything to the left of it stays. That's all right, you're good, you're good. And then everything to the right would be? And do we have to write them?
No.
Not necessarily. It's just as good to take those off, unlike whole numbers. Whole numbers, you gotta write them. Decimals, no. Okay, and there you go. All right, let's move on to the next topic. A lot of this stuff moving forward is pretty easy. And so it says, obtain an estimate for the following computation by rounding the numbers so that the resulting arithmetic can be easily performed by hand or in your head. So if you had to take a calculator out, you haven't rounded right. Now, important note for everybody, internet class as well, any calculator is okay for this class. You are allowed to use a calculator. So if you came from my 0332 class, or if you came from an 0332 class, you are allowed to use a calculator in this class, just not your phone. Okay? Because when we're in our class for our final and regular tests, and internet class when you go to the testing center, they won't let you use a phone for it. Okay, especially internet class. Okay? So, all right. And so you actually need to see it. Yeah, 9.64 plus 4.21 plus 16.46. Let's do this together. What do you guys all think? 9.64 could round to what? 10. Because they say round to the nearest integer, what they're essentially saying is we don't want any decimals. How about 4.21? 4. 16.46? 16. How do you know this one? Because you might have thought 1650. Integer means that we want the nearest whole number. You don't want any decimals. So if you want the nearest whole number, then the 6, the 2, and the 4 are the ones that are going to help you make your decision. Does that make sense, guys? 10 plus 4 is? 14 plus 16 is? 30. So, there it is, 30. Does that make sense? And then the final thing is to find the actual sum. I am not going to do that because you're allowed to use a calculator. Why would I go and do this by hand? Whether you know how to do it or not, I don't really care because you're allowed to use a calculator. So I'm not really going to review it. Now, if I was in 0332, we would be doing addition of decimals, but I'm not going to. Okay, does that make sense, guys? So there are some things like, for example, I'm not going to actually calculate this for you. So I'm going to roll right over it with the understanding that we all know how to do this on the calculator. Okay? All right, so moving along. Okay, And here's another question. Same concept, obtain an estimate for it, and then you'll find the actual. So we need the numbers. 35.47 minus 14.008. What is 35.47 round to? 35. 14.008. 14. And your estimate is 21. Does that make sense, guys? Now, I'm going through this a little bit faster. One, because I think you guys can do this. Even if I didn't go over this homework with you, I bet you could do it. So I'm just kind of going through it fast, plus we're on a little bit tighter timetable. The actual difference, why am I not actually going to go through this? Because you can do it on a calculator. Okay, moving along. All right. Same thing, estimate. What would you estimate that to be? 40 times? Yes. 40 times 7, because that 5 would round up to 6. Does that make sense, guys? Which is 280. If you didn't know that, no big deal. You could have typed that in and figured it out. And I am not going to go through multiplication because I know that you could ultimately just plug it in your calculator. Got it? Okay? Let's keep going. I'm going to try to finish this homework assignment. We need to finish this homework assignment, okay? It's not hard. Same thing, but with division, right? 60 divided by 4, right? 60 here and 4 here, and then you would get an answer of 15. Okay? I did that fast, but you guys could have figured that out. Okay? And then the actual, you could go and plug that in as well. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay? Moving right along. I'm probably going to have to go over by just 5 minutes, so just hang in there with me. Okay, so same concept, but we're doing it with groceries. We're not going to do this probably. Okay, so I'm going to skip it, but I want to show you that we need to estimate grocery prices to the nearest dollar, and then find our total. That's exactly what we've been doing, isn't it? Not a big deal. And then, of course, they're going to ask you for the exact amount. And that's all. Okay? So moving along. Now, let's take a look at this. A full-time employee who works 40 hours per week earns $20.50 per hour. Estimate that person's annual income. Let's talk about this. So if you work 40 hours per week, how do we figure out how much we make in a week if we want to estimate that?
40 times 20.
40 times 20. So you could do it as 40 times 20. You can even do it as 40 times 21 if you really want to round it up. I'm going to look at the specific directions. Determine the following estimate without using a calculator. Now, if I was not using a calculator, I might do this not as 21, but just 20. Even though the correct way of rounding it is technically 21 if you round to the nearest number. But I'm going to do 40 times 20, which means you make about $800 per week, right? And then they say round 52 weeks to 50 per year and round the hourly wage to the nearest dollar. Oh, they said nearest dollar, which means we probably should go 21, right? But let's just see. So 800 times what? 50 weeks in a year. Everybody agree? And so this is going to be about $40,000. Now, if this is wrong, it's probably because they wanted us to round that to 21. Does that make sense, guys? So $40,000 per year. Let's see if that's okay. If not, we'll, and they don't like that. Rounding nearest 1,000. Okay, so I would do it as 40 times 21, which is 0, 4, and 0, 8. So that's 840 times 50. So that's 0, 20. What is that? 22. 42,200. They say round to the nearest 1,000. So this is going to be 42,000 per year. And there it is. Does that make sense? And then you can find an exact answer. I'm not going to do the exact one. Okay? All right. Same thing. You lease a car at $603 per month for 3 years. Estimate the total cost of the lease by rounding. Same thing. Now, I want to show you something because we're going to kind of bring this to a close here. And what I want to show you is that in the event, especially internet class, but you guys as well, in the event that you're not sure how to do a question, there's this area at the top that says question help. And because this first section is a little bit tight in time, but I still want it due by the next class, if you find something that you can't do, help me solve this and view an example are going to be awesome for you. They really help you get through this. Help me solve this, view an example are critical to your success because there are going to be times when you still don't get it or you forgot what we did or your notes aren't as good as you probably could have taken. You can also look at the textbook, and if you click Ask My Instructor, it'll send the question directly to me. Does that make sense, guys? Okay? I want to do one more question, and we'll call it a day. And I'm going to do this question using Help Me Solve This. Okay, it says a raise of $290,000 is evenly distributed among 295 professors. Estimate the amount each professor receives. You should know that this is a division problem. You would take 290,000 divided by 295 for the exact amount, right? But let's say you didn't know that. Let's say you needed help to solve this problem. You click on Help Me Solve This. It says a raise of 290,000 is evenly distributed. Estimate the amount each professor receives. Okay, so, oh, this is a mess. Let's back up. It says, first, oh, this is bad. It's hard for me to show this to you on this screen. And now it's too small. This is terrible. Okay, so what we need to do is, what is 295? They walk you through this. What is 295 round to the nearest 100? And you would say it's 300, right? Done. And internet class, you can't quite see it, but that's it. Then they ask you, what is 290,000 rounded to the nearest 100,000? 300,000. Okay? So now, if we divide 300,000 by 300 people, we'll find out how much each person gets, which is about, what? 10,000. Crap on that. No, 1,000. Not thinking. Bad. So there you go. And then finally, if you want the actual, you take 290,000 divided by 295. Does that make sense, guys? And that is an example of Help Me Solve This on a problem. Okay? Any questions about that at all? So, 1.2 is due before we meet. My in-class group is due before we meet on Thursday. Right at 8 o'clock, it's due. Homework and quiz. Internet class, watch for the due date, that's when it's due.